Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick. This is my daily ramble. I hope you're all well. As always, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe, drop a like on the video because it does really help us. So, what we're going to talk about today is the news that broke yesterday. The massive fallout between Moyes and Stuyton. Some more news that's broken today as well about how they've gone on to go out for a meal. Now Moyes has excluded Tim. Apparently everyone went out for a meal last night, so that's nice, isn't it? That's what we've been told, or it's tonight. I'm not too sure. That was a tweet that I read. And also we're going to talk about some players that may potentially be looking for a move. Some players that we wouldn't want to be leaving the club. But before we get there, just a quick update. I'm actually not going to give you an update because I don't want to bore you. But I'm on day 3 of this fast. I'm a bit spaced, so please be forgiving. Please be forgiving in my delivery and stuff like that, because I probably will be a little bit because that's how I feel, to be quite honest. I'm lacking a bit of energy, but tomorrow we start the juicing, so hopefully, this is the 3rd day of just water, no food. My energy levels are on the fucking floor, but tomorrow I should be picking up again. So look, anyway, that's that. So be kind. Drop me a thumbs up. Give me some encouragement. Right, so as we heard yesterday, David Moyes and Tim Stuyton had a massive fallout over the fact that Tim Stuyton has been interviewing first team managers to sort of come in and replace David Moyes. Now, I suppose we'll try and break it down really to a degree. First of all, David Moyes should just have watched Claret and Booze, because he'd have known for the last 6 months that he's just been strung along. That's basically what's been happening. This fallout isn't because it's not because Stuyton is going out there looking for new managers. It's because of what it represents. It represents that David Moyes has been led along. He's been led along a path. This season I said they've dangled a carrot. It's exactly what I said. Now the realisation has hit. The realisation has smacked David Moyes straight in the face. They was going to be getting rid of him all along. That's why he's angry. Tim is obviously part of that. But again, he's done nothing wrong. That's what he was brought in to do. That's it. That's what he's employed to do. He was brought in to move West Ham on. He should be succession planning. When the next manager comes in, he should also have another manager in mind and queued up, ready for if the current manager decides to sort of do the off. That's his job. That's what he does. So for David Moyes to act like a little petulant baby, jump up and down and scream because Tim Stuyton's doing his job is ridiculous. It's pathetic. And I can only imagine that Tim Stuyton went back and gave him both barrels, because otherwise there wouldn't have been a fallout. It would have just been David Moyes beating his chest. But no, obviously there was a bit of a tear up. Don't know whether it was physical or verbal, but they've taken extreme measures to keep him separated. And it's ridiculous from Moyes, because at the end of the day, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. Anybody could see what was happening. I know there's been a lot of denial this year. Now, look, I had information to say that he was going to move on, so I've been a lot more relaxed about it. But even when you look at the facts, he won a trophy, no new contract. He had the best start to a Premier League season without Declan Rice, no new contract. He weren't getting a contract. It was never going to happen. It was never going to happen. It's not going to happen now. It's obviously David Moyes desperately wants a job, but it's tough. We don't want him here. It's done. We're finished with it. It's dull. It's boring. It's been an absolute nightmare this last 2 years, barring that one day in Prague, which was a great day. But apart from that, it's been awful, absolutely awful. We should have moved on from him a long time ago. So I'm sorry, Dave. You're a rich man. You'll get over it on your toes. But the club reaction to this, the club reaction to David Moyes and Tim Stuyton falling out, it should never have been this. It should never have been David Moyes kicking off, now Tim is banned from the training ground, from the first team changing room. Apparently, there's an office space that he's no longer allowed to use at the moment because it's kind of shared with David Moyes. So Tim has been ostracised. Now, I know that David Moyes is the one that would have to be excluded in that situation, because David Moyes has a team to run and we've got a match at the weekend. So obviously, if anyone's going to be removed from that situation, it will be Tim. But Tim is the boss. He's supposed to be the boss. I don't see how this doesn't upset Tim and make him feel like he hasn't got the backing of the board. Like they're not sticking. I'm not being funny. With all due respect, that should be a sackable offence. What David Moyes has done there, it should be. If a player went to David Moyes and started kicking off in that respect, you'd expect him to be, breach of contract. I don't see how, if David Moyes can't get away with doing that with Sullivan, how can he get away with doing that with Stein? It doesn't make any sense to me. But they've kind of backing David Moyes. Well, they're not backing him. They're wrapping him in cotton wool and they're letting him see the season out. But it's the implications. It's the way that the club is run. You know, is that going to have an effect on Stein? That's my concern. I know that Sean Whetstone has come out with another puff piece to say, well, actually, it wasn't. He hasn't been banned. Tim Stein has offered off of his own back to do this because it's the right thing to do. That's just PR, you know, that's the same old thing. He knows about as much as Manuel from 40 Towers, that bloke. He does, honestly. He does. He just knows what he's told to say. Proper mouthpiece. So obviously they know there's been a bit of a PR nightmare on this one, and they're trying to play it down. You can't play it down. It's a fucking circus. Again, it's a circus, Sullivan, and it's all headed up by you because you allowed this to brew and fester and deteriorate. And this is what you've done. You and Brady have allowed this to happen. You know, we should have been. After the cup win, we was on a high. The right thing to do would have been to have let David Moyes go. Let him have a hero send-off, and then we move on with the next phase of the project. But no. No, you showed no bottle again because you was worried about what the media would say if you brought another manager in, and then immediately they didn't succeed, you'd get the finger pointed at you. So what you decided to do was keep David Moyes in place and, oversee his downfall before you could move him on? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not a David Moyes fan, but you haven't helped him succeed this year, have you? Let's face it. Not really. You didn't give him the players that he wanted in Maguire and McTominay, which I'm happy about. But why keep a manager if you're not going to give him the players that he wants? Why do that? You didn't do that. You know, you've half-arsed everything. And what this season has ended up turning into, when you consider the state of the Premier League this year, how Aston Villa are in the top four, the opportunity that was there, the opportunity that you've wasted, that you've burned, which might not be there again for quite some time. It is absolutely unforgivable what you've done. It's ridiculous. And we've gone through a half season of misery but good results that have given us a false position. We've come through the second half of the season of misery and results that reflect our performances. And they reflect they reflect the results of the year before. It's just we had a little bit of luck, a little bit of gap in the middle. But I just what you've done is ridiculous. And the damage that has been done this season, like I just said to you, you've gone and got Tim Stein, who brought his players in when he came in. You know, I don't know. Have you upset Stein now? We know that the likes of Alvarez and Kudus are apparently reported to be looking for a move away from the club at the end of the year. That's added to Paqueta, who also apparently wants to move. You know? And to compound all of this, talking about Tim, not only have they allowed David Moyes to ostracise Tim Stein from the club, let's face it, for the rest of his tenure. I mean, what happens if David Moyes was to stay? Now you've got a Tim or Moyes situation. If they can't get another manager and they have to keep Moyes, which ain't going to happen, but let's just say that was the case, Tim would have to go. They can't work with each other no more. It's as simple as that. They didn't like each other before, contrary to the ridiculous reports that they do get on. They do like each other. They're professionals. They're paid a lot of money. They have to work with each other. So they grinned. They was grinning and bearing it. They don't like each other. There's tons of reports out there to say that they don't. And you can see this now. Now, look, it's for them to sanction David Moyes after Tim has been ostracised, for them to sanction a players' meal with David Moyes without Tim. So I'm assuming that Brady and Sullivan and all that are going to be there because they did this a little while ago, didn't they? Where they took their other halves. So it's a bonding session without Tim. Tim is cut out the loop. This is how is Sullivan allowing this to happen? How is he allowing it to happen? Is he trying to piss starting off? Is that what he's doing? I've got no clue because the rebuild next year is terrifying. What's got to be done? And it's a little less terrifying when we feel like we've got somebody that knows what they're doing in post. Someone like Tim. We feel like we can go out and we can do it. We can do it well. Because if you saw Gary's show yesterday, the money that David Moyes has hemorrhaged is ridiculous. You couldn't even dream of giving him the keys and 400 to 500 million to undertake another project. You couldn't do it. It would be mental. You know, it's been proven that the guy can't spend money. So it's already going to be bad enough. So why would you go out and upset the main asset that's going to help us in our project next year to keep... He's not an asset. To keep this bloke happy who's going to be gone in 3 games. That's been causing all these problems. Why would you do that? I've got no clue, no idea. I don't know what they're doing. Every decision that David Sullivan makes ever is shit. It's a bad decision. He divers. He stalls. He overthinks things, and then he makes the wrong fucking decision. He's always done it. He's done it throughout time. But this is ridiculous what they're doing now. They're going out for a bonding session without Tim. How are they allowing Moyes to do that? It's like one last power play from that narcissist. It is. Because he is a narcissist. He really is. I'm looking forward to his press conference today. But it's ridiculous. And like I say, with the likes of Kudus and Alvarez, when they came in, those players have probably never been asked to play football in the way that David Moyes has asked them to play. They've probably never ever seen it before. Even Alvarez, who's defensive, has probably never been asked to play football in this way before. I can only imagine that this has been a nightmare for them. And if the reports are true, as Ornstein has said, that they've got release clauses, we've got a very good chance of losing Alvarez, Kudus and Paqueta in this window. We have. And then what? If we haven't got Stuyton, why are they giving a fuck about Moyes at this point? What they should have done is let him go a couple of games ago so he could have bowed out and the fans could have given him a decent send-off. The ones that wanted to give him a send-off and say thanks and goodbye could have done it, but they're not going to do that. Even this, they're fucking up. Even the David Moyes, who they've stuck with out of respect and loyalty, they're not going to allow him to have a good send-off. They're not. Because they're going to keep him until the end of the season and make the decision once the season is finished. So how is he going to get to say goodbye to the fans? He's not going to, is he? It's as simple as that. So they fuck everything up. They do. I think it's incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating what's happening at West Ham at the moment. This should have been David Moyes going and Tim Stuyton being in place should have been exciting. It should be. But it's not. This is filling me with dread as well now. It should have felt sweet. We should have been excited, but even this, there's going to be no smugness from me at this point. I haven't been banging this drum all year, well, for the last 2 years, because I wanted them to keep Moyes until the end of the season and burn a season. That was not the point. I wanted them to act to prevent this from happening so that we could move on and not fall off a cliff like we're currently doing. But we're falling off a cliff, and now we've got to try and pick ourselves back up again. So it feels a little bit like it's all been for nothing, to be quite honest, this campaign. The club don't listen to the fans. They have no clue about football because everything that we've been talking about is fact. I know a lot of people will say, oh, you talk based on, your anger. Your anger clouds your judgment. No, it doesn't. It's there in black and white. Gary put the stats out there yesterday. For every one stat that is favourable to David Moyes, there are 20 against him. So even objectively, David Moyes is an absolute... he's a catastrophe. He's a failure. Take the cup win out of it in the last 4 years. The last 2 have been an absolute... They've been a decline and a failure. With the amount of money that he's spent and everything else, blocking youth, it's been ridiculous. So it's got nothing to do with my hate of Moyes. My hate of Moyes is born out of my love for West Ham. That's what it is. Because the right thing for West Ham is to move on from David Moyes. So this hate that I've got for this man at the moment is born out of my love for this club. I don't think you can. How can you want him to stay now? If you do, I don't think there's many left. But how can you justify? I heard a few podcasts, kind of well-established podcasts yesterday, and you've still got people on there that are kind of they're articulating arguments really well. But they're almost blaming fans that are Moyes out now in ruining it for Moyes. Well, I think he deserves to stay on. He does deserve to stay on. He's a perennial underachiever, as is West Ham. So we're a perfect match. What sort of logic is that? We don't want to be perennial underachievers. And they're blaming fans as a reason for this decline. That's what they're doing now. They know they're wrong, basically. They know they've been backing a losing fucking horse. That's what they've realised now. The realisation has smashed them straight in the face, and they've realised they've been backing a losing horse. They feel stupid, so now they're looking at making they're blaming other people. That's what they're doing. It is what it is. Look, anyway, that's it from me. That probably made no sense whatsoever because, I'm fasting. See you later on. Drop a like. Go you heads.